Avni, can't hear you real well.
That might be Sarah, because sometimes Sarah has to dial in.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, actually.
Okay.
If you're joining through the phone, can you let us know who you are?
Avni and Ariel, are you guys in the office?
Yes.
Okay, there. Whatever you did, Ariel, now you're good. Okay, in terms of audio. Avni, the last time you talked, it was still bad.
Okay. She just needs to speak up. She's right here by me.
Okay, good.
We just can't have both of our computers on. So I'll just keep nudging her to speak up.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, I guess we're ready to go. Good. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm glad you all could make it on this beautiful, sunny, cold Midwestern morning. Yeah, well, I think we've got quorum. Okay, good. All right. If we could take a look at the minutes from the last meeting. Does anybody have any comments or corrections on that? Okay, I hear none. I don't see hands. I don't see anything in the chat. So can I have a motion, please, to approve those minutes?
Yeah, I move, Joel.
Thanks, Joel. Second, please.
I'll second that.
Okay, Robert, thank you. Okay, all in, well, let's, yeah, if there's any negative votes, let us know. Otherwise, we all approve. Yep, thank you, Robert. Okay, Bob and, okay. All right, so we approve those. So let's go on to, what happened to my agenda? Okay.
I'm realizing I didn't have the whole packet. I'm trying to open the whole packet. The dates of the board minutes or the board. Okay, Avni's gonna find that. Let me open up the agenda again. Sorry about that.
Okay, all right. Is anybody on the line for public comment? Okay, not hearing anyone, we're going to close public comment. The next thing on the agenda is the approval of the 2024 board meeting calendar. And yes, that was sent out to us. And does anybody have any comments on that or changes?
Yeah, the only change that we were proposing from the standard third Wednesday of the month at 8 is Juneteenth. I believe the county is now closed on the actual day of, was it June 18th? June 19th. So we need to adjust our meeting for the June 19th board meeting. So we could do it the week before, the week after. That's up to the board.
Okay, well, my Wednesday mornings at this time are open. So does anybody else have any conflict on either the week before or the week after? Okay, then Avni, you and Ariel figure out when you want us to meet, okay? And we'll put that. When, the week before or the week after?
Let's do the week after.
Okay.
If that's okay.
And that would be to June what?
That would be, sorry, my computer's going a little slow. It would be June 26th at 8 a.m.
Okay. And I'm thinking that sometimes we drop at least, one meeting. So perhaps what we can do is we can drop the July meeting and this would be good. And then we would come back in with August.
Yes, and I think, are those dates proposed on that? I think we had taken the July and the December meeting off. Is that right? Because that's kind of the past few years you haven't wanted, the board
Okay.
hasn't wanted to meet then. So we wouldn't have a July and a December meeting, and then the June meeting would be on the 26th.
Okay.
I have, that's my wife's birthday, June 26th, but I think at 8 in the morning, I probably can get through that.
And we understand if you can't make that meeting, hopefully the other board members can fill in for you.
Sure.
It's a
Yeah.
good way to start the day, Bob.
Yeah, if that causes me any kind of problems, I'll just drop out.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so with those few changes, so we now are not going to meet on June 18th or 19th. We're going to meet on June 26th. We will have no meeting in July and no meeting in December. And with those changes, do I have a motion to approve this calendar? Joel, where are you?
Mike,
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah,
Okay, to make a motion to approve the calendar?
I move.
Okay, second, please.
I can second that, and will you send out a reminder then, Ariel?
Yes.
Calendar invite? Thanks.
Okay, good. All right. Any other comments on the calendar? Okay, good. Next in line is to talk about, we have one application that has been submitted to us for our board vacancy. And that resume was sent, and the application was sent out to us with Avni's mail. And I will turn this over to Avni and Ariel and let them talk about this person.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, we, the only information we got is what we've sent to you all, which is that application. Basically you can review, his answers and, think about whether or not you think he'd be a good fit for the board. He would be replacing, Kimberly DeShan's position.
And who was who was Kimberly on our committee as a citizen, or did she represent a company?
That would be before our time. I'm not
Okay.
sure if we would know that, but my understanding is that there's not necessarily designated positions
Right.
on LCAB, so I'm not sure if it would.
Okay. All right. Well, the reason I was asking is because reading this gentleman's application, he's coming to us as a farmer and somebody who's involved in really the holistic side of farming. And I don't know if anyone knows him, but I'd certainly like to have comments on his application and his resume.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I believe his contact information is in the application too, if anyone is curious to reach out and ask more from him.
yeah, I've got some comments.
Okay, Joel?
Yeah, yeah, looking, why are you interested in serving? And he mentions, as the modern capitalist machine continues to dismantle the natural world, and I shouldn't be saying this, especially myself. The only comment I have, this is kind of like what I see almost as a political statement here. And does the applicant realize, I mean, we're all, I think, passionate about, land preservation, but the county sets down what we can do, what we can't do, and basically their goals, and we have set procedures. So does the applicant realize we're not really a political group per se, or have a political agenda, is
Mhm.
what it comes down to. As everyone knows, we don't go knocking on doors saying you want to put your land into a conservation easement or something like that.
Right.
With nonprofit partners. So that was my only concern, whether this person realizes that we don't have, a political agenda and, we don't politically advocate.
Right,
Exactly.
To do the wishes of the county commissioners.
right. And especially, and I know you mentioned it in your opening statement, but because our meetings are public, have public access. And so if anybody wanted to tune into our meetings and listen or have access to them after the fact, that, they would know that. And my concern is kind of this along the same line as Joel's, is I wonder how much investigation this person did into our advisory role. Because we don't act independently. So that was my concern.
Did this person get recommended by any members of the LCAB?
I didn't see
No.
that.
My understanding is that he just saw the vacancy on either the county website or the Mountain Express and submitted his application. And so it's completely up to the board to say, oh, we want to leave this vacancy open for, a few more months so we can get a wider variety of applicants. And then board members can reach out to folks that you think would be good fits. I don't believe there's any pressure to accept this, application. We just need to start digging up some options.
Okay.
Then I would share the same concern a little bit, since we don't know that much about where they're coming from.
Yeah, I certainly went the extra step and looked him up on Google. And so he is, he's from California. He's involved in a number of things that go on here in Asheville. What I don't see is I didn't see, like I say, any, I'm going to say recognition or involvement in county government or in any government issues. And since we not only are serving at the pleasure of the board, but we also, and I know this for a fact, we work very closely with the state people and the federal people in doing and getting grants and being involved in saving land, but we do it basically by the book. And so I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that on his resume. And did he reach out to anyone? Did he talk with anyone on the board?
No, he just reached out to us yesterday.
Oh, you just got this yesterday. Okay. All right. Okay, well, I would propose that we leave it open for a while. And if he does reach out to any of us to talk with us privately, that we make sure he understands the parameters in which we work. That would be very helpful. Does anybody else have any comments?
I would just add that we also try to look for people that even if they've only been in the community a short time, they've sort of learned how to outreach to people in the community, rural and otherwise, and seem to have a good communications skills, that kind of thing, in, like not burning bridges or whatever.
Okay, all right, that's a very tactful way of putting it. Thank you, Bob. Any other comments? Okay. Bob, do you have anything to say, Mr. Turner?
Well, I would hope that we have a group of candidates to select from.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we get 2 or 3 or 4 more applicants that we can choose from, would be wise, I think, to keep it open for a little bit.
Okay, good. One clarification. I know that on the first thing the application asks is if you are a resident of Buncombe County. Ariel, is there any, there are people that I know who are not residents of Buncombe County, but own property in Buncombe County. Is there any way that we could see if we could get those kind of people available to us? Or is it just totally out
My
of the question?
understanding, you have to be a resident of Buncombe County to serve on a Buncombe County board.
Okay, right.
I don't really think there's a workaround.
Okay.
Yeah, Ariel, thanks for asking me that. Because someone approached me, as you know, I'm on the Board of Adjustment. They don't live in the county and felt for sure they could apply for boards in the county.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay, thank you, both of you. Anything else on the board member vacancy? As of right now, we're going to leave it open till we get a few more candidates and we'll look at it next month, okay? All right. We don't have to vote on this. So just if there's anybody that doesn't agree with us, let us know. Okay, let's move on. Avni has sent us the updated LCAB evaluation. We talked a lot about this last month. And I just wonder if anyone has any comments about that, or Avni, can I just turn it over to you and let you talk about it?
Yeah, you can turn it over to us if you
Thank
want.
you.
Before we talk about this. So several things happened over the last month. I know we sent out a draft LCAB farmland preservation evaluation a few weeks back. But since then, on the county side of things, we've discussed with Jill, our open space bond manager, as well as county management. And they're feeling that there are really two options. And I believe that Avni kind of sent a brief glimpse at this in the email yesterday. But basically, the options that they're seeing are basically keeping the existing evaluation that you have and not having a farmland specific ranking. So keeping it as the existing approved evaluation that you have, or using the approved agricultural advisory farmland preservation ranking. So that would be, then all farmland projects that come to the county are evaluated the same way, whether they're going with the Soil and Water Program or with a local land trust. So the idea is that we would rank farmland projects all the same, so that's fair, because we're using the same criteria. I know that the Ag Advisory Board ranking system is well researched. We recently updated it last year. Yeah, so generally that's the feel that we're getting from the county, is because we've recently just last May went through the approval process for getting this criteria approved for the bond use from the commissioners, that it would be best if we continued, if we want to have a specific ranking system for farmland projects, it would be best to use the one that has already been approved. That being said, because it was approved for Ag Advisory and not necessarily for LCAB, there is the potential that Jill would have to still represent that to the to the commissioners. But we have we have good reasoning for needing to do that, because we're trying to basically be good stewards of bond and county funds, and we want to make sure that we have the best ranking system to be able to evaluate the project. So that's generally the proposal. I know I'm sorry that we sent out the the first kind of form and are switching it up kind of in the middle of it, but I just wanted to share that with you, see what the board's thoughts are, and Jill can answer any questions specific to the bond approval process.
Okay. I'll open it to the floor. Just one question, Ariel. Do you all have a preferred method?
Yes, I think that it makes the most sense to use. Well, I guess the ultimate question is, does the board want a farmland specific ranking? If yes, then I think it makes the most sense to use the Ag Advisory Board system, because it is recently updated, and it makes a level playing ground. So like we're not necessarily, if an example of that is, okay, say a farmland project, a landowner wants to protect their farm, they're not going to be like negatively penalized for going with soil and water or LCAB, because it's all ranked, in the same way, regardless of the holder of that easement. So that's kind of one piece of that's just pretty much an example of a way that keeps things fair.
How about, is there any legal ramifications? If somebody were to question the county on, did it go through the LCAB process or the ag process? Why would a farm come through the LCAB process if we're going to start using the ag evaluation?
Because the LCAB board funds land trust easements and the ag board funds county held easements. So all nonprofit easements have to be funneled through the LCAB board. So this would mostly be like easements coming from Southern Appalachian with Jess, and some coming from Tom Fonslow. But so yeah, it really is just the evaluation tool that is being used by the board. And so the thought is, we already have a well-crafted evaluation tool that the county has approved, specific to farmland. Why would we recreate something just because it's another board approving it? Seeing those projects, that's kind of the general idea. Jill?
And by keeping, I was just gonna add to that. Oh, sorry.
No, go
I was just
ahead.
gonna add and say that by keeping it consistent for ag and LCAB, I think we avoid some of those concerns you're getting at, Nancy, because someone can't say, oh, my property was poorly evaluated because it went through ag versus it went through LCAB. It's the same. You're gonna have the same chance. And we're not prioritizing conservation easements over the farmland program or vice versa. So, or we're not prioritizing land trusts over the farmland program or vice versa. They're the same.
This may not be a good idea. It just popped into my mind hearing all this. Would it make sense for LCAB to have as one of its things, instead of talking the way we do about farmlands, is one of the things that gives it a high score is that it has been approved through the Ag Advisory Board process already?
So a project would have to come through Ag Advisory and LCAB if they were farmland projects? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's we're scoring ours, for LCAB, and it's already been passed by the Ag Advisory Board, so it gets a high score for that, rather than however we do it now, which I'm scratching my head to remember that exact question.
I think so my initial thoughts on that is that the Ag Advisory Board approval process is pretty much the same as the LCAB approval process.
Yeah. Okay.
So in these types of farmland projects, it would go through a similar process if we just stayed with LCAB, but the way it would differ would be using the different evaluation systems. So ultimately, the score would come out differently, and the score could be compared to all the other Ag Advisory Board scores. But yeah, that's
okay.
So
it might be redundant as where I'm going with it. If it has to go through Ag Advisory and then go through LCAB, it potentially might be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have a question, okay. For the LCAB board, its evaluation, okay, and at least the original draft of forms that are sent out, because I commented, because there's still a question in there about farmland preservation.
right.
And, it's always been my concern that, if it isn't a farmland preservation project, or there isn't farmland preservation next door, it's going to affect the evaluation.
Yeah, and I think that was definitely that was an error on our side. Our proposal is that if you have a specific farmland system, then we would take out the farmland question on the general LCAB ranking. And I think we meant to replace that with a proximity to protected lands question, but I think we had farmland protected, right? Proximity to protected farmland. So that was just an error on our part. So that question is supposed to be, instead of having a farmland preservation question, it's supposed to be giving points for lands that are in proximity to other protected lands. So that would be, the hope is that we'd have, a general LCAB system, and then for farmland projects, you'd have the farmland system. So there would not necessarily be an overlap. Would that be better, Joel?
Yeah.
Okay, but what I hear, Ariel, is that regardless of how we're grading properties, the bottom line is that LCAB will then only represent our partners and ag will represent soil and water.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so what the big difference is who is gonna, in the end game, who is gonna hold the property?
Yes.
Okay, I see Jill nodding vigorously, yes. Okay, all right, so that to me falls back on LCAB's work with Southern App and with Conserve Carolina and with Riverlink and anything else that's not held by the county. If there's farmland that's held by Southern App, is anyone from Southern App on? I didn't see.
I don't think so.
Okay, all right. Or Conserve Carolina, Riverlink. Okay. The point is that I think we have to get their buy-in. I mean, what happens again if Southern App has a farm? Then do they come through us or do they come through the Ag Board?
They always come, all interest will always come through LCAB.
Okay, all right. I think that's the clarification that I needed. So our role is defined. Okay.
And I know it was slightly different in the past, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is a clarification point that the county's made over the last couple of years. And so they really want us to keep nonprofits with LCAB and county with Ag Advisory.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
go.
No, go ahead, Nancy, finish up. Go ahead.
No, I was going to open it up to everybody else.
Well, let me ask a question. Nothing's really changed in how this is working then. Is that right, Ariel? It's always been this way that yes. LCAB handles the trust and
well, yeah. Over the last few years, this is how it's
been. Yeah. Okay. So that means there's a lot of decisions on your end. First of all, if the county is, when someone comes to you with land, first of all, the county is interested in holding that easement, right? If it's going to be a soil and water project, that's like one of the first decisions, right? Mm-hmm. Then if you think it's good for a land trust, or you want to get a trust involved in the speed. If somebody, I'm speaking of somebody reaches out to your office, mm-hmm. I've got some land thinking about serving. So you got several decisions to make first then, right? First is this something that the county would hold? Is this something we should get our partners involved in at a trust? Or is this something that might be good for passive rec now? And so what's your process to determine where to start with this whole thing? Is there another separate evaluation that you'll use to kind of direct where this land project will go?
So so typically when somebody reaches out to us, it's for farmland. It's I would say when the bond opened or when the bond first passed, we had some passive recreation outreach. Now that's really going straight to Jill. So the initial evaluation or the initial kind of decision that we make is that if someone's reaching out to us about a farmland project, we meet with them, we talk with them, we see kind of what the project is like, and we always say this is just one of the options. You can reach out to Southern Appalachian, you can reach, depending on their location, you can reach out to Conserving Carolina. Yeah, basically we can offer you this option, but we want to make sure you find the right fit for your specific parcel and your specific situation. So please reach out to Jess. We shoot them their information back and forth, that type of thing. Unless the landowner is just like really gung-ho about going with soil and water. So we always make sure that we're working in partnership, bouncing projects back and forth to make sure it's the right fit for the landowner and the easement holder. So there's not a like written out, system for that. It's mostly, in conversation with the landowner themselves.
Yeah.
And a lot of just know who they want to go with initially. They have either trusted soil and water for a long time because they worked with us, or they don't want to deal with the government and they want to go with a nonprofit. So it kind of just, depends. We don't see it as much. We are not looking at it as a competition. It's usually like one project is best for one organization and one is best for the other. So we've coexisted.
And if somebody wants to explore different options, like let's say they go to Jess and they're not really interested, could they come back and pursue it another?
Absolutely. And we've had that happen for sure. And vice versa.
It's ultimately the landowner's decision. So we like to give them options, talk to them, and then tell them to talk to Jess. Either they'll reach out to Jess or another land trust and talk to them and decide they want to go with land trust, or they'll come back to us. So we present that information, but ultimately the landowner decides.
Okay. All right. So where are we with this?
And I will also say that those conversations happen well in advance of bringing a project to the boards for approval. So we really know that the project is moving forward with that organization before it even comes to a board. So, so that's just kind of behind the scenes stuff happening earlier.
Okay.
Right. And then part of that conversation, I'm sorry, Nancy, part of that conversation then would be, okay, here's all the options. And if you don't mind people coming onto your land, then this might be something for passive rec. Yeah. If you want to control what happens on your land, it'd be LCAB, that kind of. So that's all explained early on.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, and we're still obviously figuring out how the talking points and how to direct people for passive rec, because that's still so new. But absolutely, if they're leaning more on the public access side, recreation side, or even looking to have somebody else own it and have that be the case, we're sending them to passive rec.
Okay. Okay. So, are we going, what do we need to approve here, Avni and Ariel?
Well, okay. So yeah, you would need to approve so making the choice of, do you just want to keep your existing system and not have a farmland system? Or do you want to keep your existing system and have a farmland system, and that farmland system be the Excel document we sent out yesterday, which is the Ag Advisory Board system? So here's like, I guess a bit of the background is that, we're planning to bring the Lake Eden project to the county commissioners. That was approved a couple months ago for bond funds. So we need to sort this out before we bring that first project for approval, because that's best practices. If we brought the LCAB, we brought Lake Eden to the board before we have the system straightened out, there could potentially be some questioning of, why did you do that before you have your systems all in place, that kind of thing. So the recommendation is that the LCAB decides on the systems you want to use, and so that we can then move forward in getting the commissioner's approval on that, so that then we can start allocating bond funds. Because we have heard from Southern Appalachian and Conserving Carolina that they're planning in the next few months to bring project requests for the bond. So we need to get our ducks in a row, basically.
Okay. I understand. Okay, Jill, do you have anything to add?
I was mostly going to add what Ariel just said, which is basically that since there have not been any conservation easements approved for bond funds yet, we want to try and get this evaluation process finalized before we bring any forward, just because it's kind of bad form to say these ones came forward and then we switched and used a different evaluation system for everything else afterwards. So just again, trying to keep consistency and make sure all projects are treated equally is really what we're going for here. Because as Ariel mentioned, there could be concern from the commissioners or from even the public if we did it otherwise. So that's why we're bringing this evaluation decision before you guys now, so we can move forward with Lake Eden.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Avni, the other person who's on the call with us with just the phone number, is that Sarah?
I'm not sure. We're not sure, actually. I'm not sure. I can try to see if I have Sarah's number.
Okay, could we have the person who's at 828-545-5944 identify themselves, please? Hello? Okay, Avni, not knowing who this is, can you take care of that from your end of they're on mute, but is there a way you can mute our outgoing message and then perhaps they will feel obligated to identify themselves? I just don't like the idea that we're taking votes, and I don't know who's on the call.
I'm not sure we can do that if it's a public meeting. I mean,
And I asked if there was public and nobody answered.
Nancy, this is Angelica Tyler. I'm not the one on the phone. I'm part of the CAPE team, but remember we're live streaming this meeting, so anyone is potentially watching right now that you can't see.
Okay.
That might also be a situation. We've had people who have automated calling that listen into meetings to record them for later purposes.
Okay.
Uses AI. I can't say for sure that that's what this is.
Okay.
It might be just someone who's driving and isn't able to unmute, but I would not feel any strong feelings about taking a vote in public because this is always a public meeting.
Okay, all right, good. Thanks for that clarification. I really needed that. Okay, any other comments from anyone on?
Okay, I'm pretty sure it is Sarah because I just looked her number up. So I think we're
all right.
Either way.
Okay, well then let's go ahead and take a vote. If let's see, Ariel, if you can state what we're voting on, and then we'll get somebody to motion that we approve or disapprove. Okay?
Okay. You're voting to keep to have two evaluation systems for the LCAB board. One to evaluate kind of general projects, mountain lands, view sheds, water quality projects, and then another system to evaluate farmland preservation projects and using the Agricultural Advisory Board's existing ranking system.
Okay, all right. All right, does anybody want to make a motion for us to approve this?
I'll motion to have two evaluation systems, including the Ag Advisory Board's existence.
Okay, a second to that motion?
I'll second it, Joel.
Thank you, Joel. All right, any comments or discussion before we vote? Okay, then please indicate if you are opposed to this vote. Okay, and if by silence, I'm saying we're all approving it. And let's go ahead and submit that to Ariel and Avni. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, all right. Let's go on to our updates from our conversation with our agencies, with our partners. Southern App, are you on?
I don't think we have anybody from the land trusts joining today.
Okay, all right. Serve Carolina and Riverlink. Yeah, I did hear from Kieran, and he apologizes for their absence. He said that they're a little busy right now, and I said that is good. But whenever anyone can join us again, that would be great. So, okay, update from Ariel and Avni.
Yeah, I would say generally we are kind of in our planning process for the season since we've submitted all of our grant applications in December. Our big goal was to figure out our evaluation system here today so that we can get moving on requesting funds from the bond. And yeah, let's see. What can you think of any other general updates?
Other than taking these 2 projects that will come for the bond in a few upcoming months.
Yeah, once Jill has goes to the commissioners and gets the evaluation system all sorted, we will LCAB will bring Lake Eden, and then we will bring a farm easement for bond easement purchase that's out in South Turkey Creek area. So that's Ag Advisory Board has already approved that, so we'll be going to the same meeting to request that. The way that will be structured in that meeting is that Jill will give a general update on the bond and introduce us, so that we'll give a brief overview of the farm project that's going to the bond, and then Michelle from Southern App will give an overview of the Lake Eden request, and the board will vote on approving those projects for easement purchase from the bond. So that's generally how that will go down. We last week had a meeting out in the Weaverville community at the Reams Creek Beach Presbyterian Church. Their pastor has reached out to us and Jess Lagus with Southern App, asking us to come out and talk to some of the community members because they had a lot of interest in their community with some farmland easement projects. So we did a presentation and answered a bunch of questions, probably had about 10 landowners show up. So similar to what we talked about earlier, we're, wanting to make sure that the organization is the right fit for the landowner and the project is the right fit for the organization. So we're trying to, be clear up front about how, how things differ working with different folks. And I think it was pretty successful. We also mentioned that we have other options for protecting properties that are not easements, like our voluntary ag district program and our enhanced voluntary ag district program. So we had some interest from folks that had parcels that were under 15 acres. And so we probably wouldn't do an easement on that because of our program requirements or our program rules, but that could be a potential fit for the EVAT program, which is like a 10-year permanent, kind of like a term easement. So we were able to offer some different options for folks out there. And we also had the idea as we were, talking with that community that in a lot of our rural communities, the church is a trusted source of information. And so, is that a potential model that we can replicate in other rural sections of the county by doing, some of these kind of community meetings, showing some options and planting the idea with folks, even if it means they don't get around to it and for the next 5-10 years. It's, really planting the seed in a kind of an environment that they feel safe in. So yeah, that's kind of some of the stuff that's been going on in our neck of the woods.
Okay. Okay, I guess it's down to Jill.
I can give the update, or if one of the members who's on the Passive Rec subcommittee wanted to give an update, I can do that. I'm not sure who usually does that when I'm not here, but I'll just go ahead. So for the Passive Rec Subcommittee, the application window for passive recreation projects for the bond officially opened yesterday. So we are now accepting applications. That application window will remain open until the end of March. During that time, those like 2.5 months, I'm going to be providing support to the applicants, helping advise on their proposals, answer any questions they might have. We also are going to be having an applicant webinar in February on the 21st at 2 p.m. For any potential or interested parties can join and again, ask questions, learn more about the process. And we will be, once the window closes at the end of March, we'll be moving into the project review, scoring, and selection process. So how that is working on the passive recreation side is there is a scoring committee of staff members who will be reviewing the proposals and scoring them using the evaluation criteria that the subcommittee adopted. And then all of those scores will be going to the subcommittee, and the subcommittee will have the opportunity to decide which projects they want to explore further. They can have the applicants come and give presentations, and there will also be site visits to the projects as well. And then ultimately the subcommittee will make recommendations to the commissioners of which projects they believe should receive funding.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Any comments for Jill?
Jill, I have a question for you. I missed, you had the open house last week, right? How was the turnout for that? Did people show up or?
Yeah, it was great. I think I know about 100 people signed in on our sign-in sheet, but I actually think more than that probably showed up. So there was a pretty big attendance. And a lot of people came by to the open space bond table. I got to talk to a lot of different groups that I hadn't heard from yet. And I think there's a lot of interest in the community for the bond generally and specifically for passive recreation. So I'm hoping that we'll get some additional applications coming through from those people who came to the fair, but it was very successful. And Sarah Joss, who's in the strategic partnerships, she's the one who kind of organized that fair, and she did a really great job. And I think it's something we're going to try and continue doing in the future as well because of how successful it was.
That's great.
Good. Okay, thank you very much. Is there any final discussion, comments, questions before we adjourn?
Hey, everybody, it's Sarah.
Hi,
Can you hear me?
Sarah.
Hey, it was me that was on the line. I don't know why I was muted and I couldn't let you know that it was me the whole time, but I was driving from school drop off and now I'm finally made it to a place where I can be on a screen just in time to say goodbye.
Well, do you have anything?
No, I do not. No updates from New Belgium. We're still making a lot of beer over here and grateful to hear all the updates and be part of this with you. I was listening in the whole time, even though you couldn't hear me.
All right, fine. Okay, anything else anyone wants to say? All right, well, stay warm and we will all talk.
I've got two things. Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
One, this is just a personal promotion here. Mountain True is holding a presentation tonight at the River Arts District Brewing Company, I think it's called. I'm putting the link on the chat. If anybody's interested, I am giving a presentation to.
Oh, you muted yourself.
Bob, you muted.
I didn't know I had done that. So I don't know where I left off, but Mountain True is giving a presentation tonight at the River Arts District Brewing Company. Sorry, it isn't New Belgium this time, Sarah. But I'm giving a presentation called If You Plant It, They Will Come. And it's all about how people can get rid of their non-native invasives in their yards or property and replace them with pollinator-friendly, wildlife-friendly plants. So if you're interested, drop by. It's freezing as it is. And I put it on the chat, and I think it just got sent, the link to it. And then I just have another question, and this may not be possible to be answered here, but we of course do no advocacy here on these boards, but I'm just curious if anybody happens to know what the meeting, the hearing that which I wasn't able to attend, if for educational purposes, do we know how the Sandy Mush proposal for an airstrip went?
It's my understanding that we cannot speak up about that with Joel present, because
Okay.
he's a member of the board of Ed.
Yeah, let me just add, board adjustment, I can't speak about it.
Ah,
And as I communicate to Ariel, anyone could show up, give a statement as a public witness, or they could apply to get legal standing as a witness. Plus, both sides are allowed to have legal representation. In other words, lawyers there representing them. Okay. We never got to that case because of another case that's been dragging on that was reported in the newspaper the other day. Right now, we may have an emergency meeting to deal with the case we're working on now. That's the one by Biltmore Lake. If that's the case, then February's meeting is likely where the issue on the airstrip would come up. Okay. Because as a board member, we want to run a quasi judicial hearing. So all we're allowed to do is hear testimony, take in the facts, and make a decision. And if someone doesn't like decision, then they go directly to the Court of Appeals. So they'll probably be on the February docket. We have a website, and it'll go up there as to exactly when it's being heard.
thanks, Joel.
I can give you a contact for someone to give you an update if you're interested.
Okay, all
Okay.
right, thank you. Anything else? All right, then a motion to adjourn, please.
I'll make the motion.
Thanks, Bob. Second?
Second, Joel.
Thanks, Joel. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, we'll see you next month. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.